A Tale of Shadows and Secrets. I never thought I'd find myself in a position like this, narrating a tale that seems straight out of a melodramatic novel. But here I am, recounting the story of how my marriage fell apart, how the woman I loved more than life itself betrayed me, and how I discovered that the person I thought I knew was, in fact, a complete stranger. Let me start from the beginning. Evelyn and I met in college. She was everything I had ever dreamed of: intelligent, beautiful, with a laugh that could light up a room. We were inseparable from the moment we met. Our friends used to joke that we were one of those forever couples, the kind you only read about in fairy tales. After graduation, we got married in a small, intimate ceremony surrounded by close friends and family. Life was perfect, or so it seemed. We bought a cozy house in a quiet neighborhood and settled into what I thought was a blissful routine. I worked as an architect, while Evelyn pursued her passion for art, painting beautiful landscapes that we proudly displayed around our home. But somewhere along the way, things began to change. It started subtly. Evelyn became more distant, often lost in her thoughts. She would spend hours in her studio, painting, or so she claimed. I didn't think much of it at first. After all, every artist needs their space. But as time went on, her absences grew longer, and her excuses became flimsier. I tried to brush it off, attributing it to the stresses of life. We all go through rough patches, don't we? But deep down, I knew something was wrong. I just didn't want to face it. One night, after another long day at work, I came home to find Evelyn gone. There was no note, no message, just an eerie silence that filled the house. I tried calling her, but she didn't pick up. Hours later, she walked through the door, her face flushed, her clothes slightly disheveled. I asked her where she had been, and she gave me a vague answer about meeting an old friend. I wanted to believe her, but a nagging doubt began to creep into my mind. Was she hiding something? Weeks turned into months, and the distance between us grew. Evelyn became secretive, always on her phone, whispering conversations I wasn't privy to. My suspicion gnawed at me until I could no longer ignore it. One evening, I decided to confront her. I asked her point blank if there was someone else. She laughed, dismissing my concerns as paranoia. "Henry, you're overthinking things," she said, but her eyes couldn't meet mine. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being played for a fool. So I did something I never thought I would. I snooped. I went through her phone, her emails, everything I could find. And then I found it. A series of messages between Evelyn and a man named Robert. The messages were explicit, filled with passion and longing, the kind of words she hadn't spoken to me in months. My heart shattered into a million pieces as I read through them, realizing that the woman I loved had been lying to me. I didn't sleep that night. I waited for Evelyn to come home, my mind racing with thoughts of betrayal and heartbreak. When she finally walked through the door, I couldn't hold back any longer. "Evelyn, who is Robert?" I asked, my voice trembling with anger. She froze, her face pale as if she'd seen a ghost. For a moment, she tried to deny it, but the evidence was too damning. Eventually, she broke down, confessing to everything. She had met Robert at an art exhibition months ago, and what started as a harmless flirtation had blossomed into a full-blown affair. I felt like my world was crumbling around me. How could she do this to me? To us. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I had vowed to spend my life with, had been living a double life. The days that followed were a blur of anger, sadness, and confusion. Evelyn begged for forgiveness, swearing that she loved me and that the affair meant nothing. But the damage was done. The trust that had once been the foundation of our marriage was shattered, and no amount of apologies could repair it. I moved out of our home, unable to bear the sight of her. I needed time to think, to process what had happened. I sought solace in my work, throwing myself into projects to distract myself from the pain. Friends and family offered their support, but nothing they said could take away the hurt. I felt like a fool, like I had been living a lie for months, maybe even longer. After weeks of soul-searching, I made a decision. I couldn't stay in a marriage where trust no longer existed. I filed for divorce, a painful but necessary step to reclaim my life. Evelyn was devastated, but there was no going back. The betrayal had cut too deep, and I couldn't see a future together anymore. We finalized the divorce quietly, without much fanfare. I moved to a new city, hoping for a fresh start, away from the memories that haunted me. It wasn't easy, but with time, the pain began to dull. Now, a year later, I'm in a better place. I found peace in solitude, and I'm slowly rebuilding my life. The scars of betrayal remain, but I've learned to live with them. I know I'll never be the same person I was before, but that's okay. I've grown stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Evelyn's betrayal was a dark chapter in my life, but it's not the end of my story. It's just one part of a journey that continues, and I've learned to appreciate the lessons it taught me. So here I am, sharing my story not out of bitterness, but as a reminder that even in the darkest of times, we can find a way to move forward. Life goes on, and so do we.